cloth that could fix anything, that you could store water in it for 1,000,000 years and it would hold. And I said, well, what's your warranty? What's your guarantee? He said to me, and I quote, guarantees are a piece of paper, and paper won't stop water from leaking through the roof. He went on to explain to me that, yeah, there was a 10-year guarantee on this thing that wouldn't leak forever, but the real guarantee was in the quality of material and the craftsmanship. Well, let's think a bit about guarantees. By the way, the roof, they did the job. I was gone, but it wasn't 10 years. The roof was leaking again. Most of us spend a large portion of our lives seeking to ensure or guarantee certain realities, don't we? Don't you think? Why do we seek a higher level of education? Better paying job and having a job. Most of us ante up significant resources on the assumption that our resources, our savings, our investments will guarantee a what? A comfortable retirement. We want to eat. And if we live in Arizona, we want air conditioning. We're careful about, well, some of us are careful about what we eat and what we feed our kids to ensure health for all concerned. I'm not as careful as I used to be, but while still in our mother's womb, we human beings are already learning how to control our environment. That's one of the things I learned working in a psych unit one year, is that some kids who act out were acting out before they were ever born. And that acting out is invariably a desire to control our environment, to get what we perceive we need. The instinctual desire to be in control in order to meet our needs, that's natural. That's normal. It's necessary. Up to a point. Maturing means we learn to not be in control a bit. But the pursuit of control, the seeking of security, the longing for these guarantees, they're all okay to a reasonable degree. But we need to remember, amidst all this stuff, that every roof ever made will leak water someday. No matter how much you jog, no matter how many supplements you take, you will leak one day. People sometimes lose their positions. Even the most shrewd and subtle investments can go bad at times. Remember when they said, buy a house, that's your best investment, that'll never go down in value. Right. Well-fed and cared for children sometimes die, just as do their parents, for one simple reason. We're all mortal. Now, the setting for today's psalm is the subject of some controversy. The Hebrew title of this particular psalm is A Psalm by David when he was in the desert of Judea. Now, if Davidic authorship and location are accepted, we know the occasion of David's hiding in the Judean desert because he was seeking to escape King Saul's assassins. Saul wanted David killed for fear the young man would usurp his kingdom. David was in fact needlessly paranoid. Saul was in fact needlessly paranoid, while David was blameless. He wasn't doing it, but he was nonetheless betrayed. Now there's another possible setting, according to the scholars. It's around 600 BC. That would be closer to Christ. The date would place the author, whoever he or she is, in the midst of the Babylonian exile. The Babylonian exile was one of the darkest periods of Israelite history. Because of the continuous intrigue and rebellion, the conquerors of the Jewish people forcibly removed them, the best and the brightest at least, to Babylon. hence the context for Psalm 63. Whichever scenario you find most compelling, there's one common denominator that's shared by both. In each case, the person or persons have been violated or betrayed. David's done nothing wrong. Saul has his issues. They're Saul's issues, not David's. But in either case, there are no warranties and there are no guarantees. The one written about in the psalm is in trouble. Each scenario offers ample reason and circumstances for sadness and grief and even depression. But rather than the expected, rather than giving us the expected, this psalm presents the unlikely, the unexpected. We're surprised by joy. O God, you are my God, and I long for you. My whole being desires you. Like a dry, worn out, and waterless land, my soul is thirsty for you. As I lie in my bed, I remember all night long. I think of you because you have always been my help. In the shadow of your wings, I sing for joy. I cling to you, and your hands keep me safe. If I were in the situation of the psalmist, or the person written about in this psalm, I'd be angry. I'd be scared. I'd be both. But that's not what's happening here. Here, the psalmist, the writer, is experiencing an overwhelming and pervasive sense of security and safety. How is this possible? I have some comments on Psalm 63. The first is that the sense of intimacy between this individual and God is stunning. I wonder if any of us could claim a human relationship as intimate as the one described in this psalm. God is the rain that brings our barren and desolate souls to bloom. Are you drinking deeply from the true source of life? This psalm has also been written by a deeply spiritual human being. One commentator has written, no matter where he or she was, Babylon, the wilderness, or at home in Jerusalem, this psalmist was transported by the vehicle of imagination into intimacy with the divine presence. But note how the vibrant fires of this person's imagination are focused by intentionality. The psalmist is not happening upon God by accident. This psalmist, this writer, this person is seeking God. Are you simply drifting? Do you think that God should catch you on the move? Or do you intentionally seek the one who abides in the shadows? The psalm says, in the shadow of your wings, I sing for joy. I cling to you, and your hands keep me safe. I love the New Testament metaphor where Jesus speaks of himself as a hen gathering her chicks. What's more, the metaphor is about God's nurture, God's protection. But there's a bit of a difference. My sense is that the source of the wings in this passage with Jesus, these are not the wings of a lowly chicken, but a giant eagle, fierce in her protection of her young. We human beings, all of us, are complex creatures. We carry needs that are sometimes paradoxical. We surely desire. We want to be in control. We wish to be independent, autonomous, self-directing. But there's more. There is also within us, male as well as female, a desire to be protected, a desire to be taken care of, a need to be nurtured. I speak for myself and I offer you this reflection. As a strong-willed, sometimes hard-headed, independent person, I feel good when I'm in the driver's seat. Who here likes to drive? To be in the driver's seat? Come on, your noses are going to grow, Pinocchio. I feel good when I'm in the driver's seat. But you know, driving all the time is a horrendous burden. And it can become terribly fatiguing. As I reflect back on my own life, it occurs to me that the times of greatest joy have been those times when I've been able to step back into the shadow of God's wings and lay my burdens down. There is, I believe, there is in my experience a maternal softness to God's hovering, brooding love. And because of that, I have been blessed to know peace in the deepest recesses of my soul. But I'll be the first to admit this condition is not continuous. It's not even frequent. In fact, it occurs mainly when life has forced me, pushed me, ejected me out of the driver's seat into a condition of insecurity. It's an issue of trust. I trust God completely only when I have little other choice. Yet in that moment of complete trust, I know beyond doubt that God is there for me and completely trustworthy. I look out upon you, brothers and sisters, knowing you as I do at this point. I don't think we're very different. The proportions of the mix between control and release may vary, but the struggle's mostly the same. It's the struggle to have faith in God and in one another. It's the struggle to trust God and one another. It's the struggle to embrace the insecurity and immortality that permeates the fabric of human life. My hope, my dream, my intention, my desire is to live my life in the shadow of God's wings. And I seek for this not only in times of devastation, when it's easy because there's no choice, but in all the times and circumstances of life. I seek not for the occasional moment of intimacy with God, but for a state of being lived in the divine velvet shadow. Is this not a common dream? Do we not share this dream? There's no three-point formula, though, for this kind of undertaking. It's process and it's journey. And I invite you to join together, all of us, in the days, months, years, decades you have left in your life, join together in the shadow of God's wings. And I would suggest to you, I would do more than suggest as your pastor, that you set a consistent time each day reserved for you and the divine. And see where that takes you. And I would venture to guess it will take you into the shadow of God's wings. Remember, folks, no matter what they tell you, no matter what books you read, no matter where you graduate from, no matter how perfectly you eat to sustain the health of the human body, every roof will leak sometime. The only place, this side of heaven, wherever that is, where the rain can't get you, is in the shadow of God's wings. Amen.